The transfer portal is continuing to go crazy each and every day right now, and today I want to bring you up to speed on 20 more players that you need to know about, have intriguing stories, or will be a big deal in the portal. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about 20 more standouts in the 2025 transfer portal. So the first guy I want to talk about is Dylan Thaman. After being a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, he blew up as a freshman at Purdue and actually went crazy while he was there. He had such an insane freshman season that he was named a freshman All-American, and PFF was absolutely in love with him. He finished with a total of 106 tackles with 2 pass deflections and 6 picks, but coming back in 2024, he was on a terrible Purdue team. In total, he ended up having 104 tackles still though, and had 6 pass deflections without an interception. He recently decided that he would go into the 2025 transfer portal, and he will bring a total of 210 tackles, 8 pass deflections, and 6 interceptions with him. I think Thaman is good enough to go to the SEC, and is definitely good enough to play in the NFL at some point, so he is a huge addition that I think a ton of teams will have a bidding war for. After coming out of Frederick Douglass High School in Lexington, Kentucky, Dane Key became a top 200 player in the class of 2022. Key would decide to go to Kentucky and stay at home for the Cats, and ultimately it was an okay decision. He had 37 catches for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns his freshman year, 42 catches for 600 yards and 6 touchdowns his sophomore year, and then this past season, 47 catches for 715 yards and 2 touchdowns. Key has always had the talent, but he hasn't been properly utilized, so he decided to enter the 2025 transfer portal, and he's already seen as one of the top players. He will bring 126 catches for 1,800 yards and 14 touchdowns alongside him, and I bet he goes to a high-profile Big Ten or SEC program. Going back in time just 1 year, Ahmad Hardy didn't really have much attention. He went to Lawrence County High School in Mississippi and was listed as the number 153rd running back in the class of 2024. Hardy would arrive at UL Monroe with little fanfare, but in his 1 season with the Warhawks, he ended up running for 1,300 yards with 13 touchdowns. He became one of the best running backs in all of college football as just a true freshman, and now he has decided to enter the 2025 transfer portal. Hardy is the classic case of a group of 5 player balling out, and he 100% will find himself at a Power 4 school this season, and I would not be surprised if he ends up over in the SEC. At 5'10", he's a little bit undersized, but Hardy is a good addition and will get a lot of fanfare. One of the biggest names in the transfer portal currently is Jackson Arnold. Coming out of Denton Guyer High School, Jackson Arnold ended up putting up absurd numbers while he was in the Texas high school football system. He became one of the best quarterbacks in Texas history, as he was listed as a top 10 recruit and the number 4 overall quarterback in the class of 2023. Arnold would end up starting 1 game in their bowl game in 2023 before being expected to be the next big thing in 2024. Sadly, it was not a good season for Arnold, as in total he finished with 1,400 yards with 12 touchdowns and 3 picks, and he would trade places with Michael Hawkins Jr. Ultimately, Arnold decided to enter the 2025 transfer portal and wound up being seen as a top 3 quarterback option. His status in high school was just too high, and he has too much potential for teams not to take a chance on him, and right now it looks like he'll probably be headed to the SEC, with lots of SEC programs trying to call his name. When you're a wide receiver and you're highly ranked coming out of high school and you go to Ohio State, it's going to be tough to get on the field. Ohio State has been a factory when it comes to the receiver position, and that's why Kojo Ottley, coming out of Lambert High School in Georgia, decided to become a Buckeye. The top 20 receiver in the class of 2022 never really got going at Ohio State ultimately, as in his 3 seasons with the Buckeyes, he registered a total of 1 catch, and that came in 2024. Ottley decided after 3 seasons in the shoe to enter the transfer portal, and right now he's not getting talked about a whole lot, but he was a huge deal coming out of high school, and with him being at Ohio State, I'm sure he'll find his way onto another Power 4 team. Another interesting name that entered the 2025 transfer portal was Chuba Purdy. Coming out of Perry High School in Arizona, he would follow in the footsteps of his older brother Brock Purdy, who's now an NFL star, and Chuba was more highly ranked than him. He was a top 10 quarterback and a 4-star recruit in the class of 2020, but so far in his 5 years in college, he has not worked out. He spent 2 years at Florida State, 2 years at Nebraska, and this past season was with Nevada. In total, he's passed for just 1,000 yards with 7 touchdowns and 8 picks, and he will enter the transfer portal for 1 final season. Honestly, I would not be surprised if he goes down to the FCS level or just becomes a backup option for some other team. He clearly doesn't have the talent unless something magically changes. We now get to another wide receiver on our list as we get to talk about Troy Stellato. Coming out of Cardinal Gibbons High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, He was a Clemson guy through and through. He was listed as a 4-star recruit and the number 32 receiver in the class of 2021, but Stellato was never really able to get that much going while he was in the Tigers uniform. In his 3 years with the Tigers, his best season came in 2023, as he caught 39 passes for 337 yards and a touchdown. This past year, he caught 25 passes for 264 yards and a score, and in total, he has 66 catches for 600 yards and 2 touchdowns. Stellato is definitely good enough to continue playing on at the Power 4 level, and looked like he wanted a fresh start and may want to play in a different system. He was highly regarded at a high school and has shown flash, so I'd not be surprised to see him get a lot of attention in the portal. Connor Weigman is the second big-time quarterback we're going to talk about today, as coming out of Bridgeland High School in Texas, Weigman would blow up his last 2 years and eventually became a 5-star recruit and the number 3 quarterback in the class of 2022. Weigman would have an interesting first 2 seasons, as he would start the end of his freshman year and then start the beginning of his sophomore year, but both of them were ended by season-ending injuries. Going into 2024, he was seen as a top 10 pick and a guy who could help bring Texas A&M football back. Instead, he really wasn't all that good. After a disastrous outing against Notre Dame, he got benched and also had an injury and ended up finishing with 800 yards with 3 touchdowns and 5 picks. He was a lot worse than Arnold was, and there's still a lot to be desired about him, but the potential is there and the 5-star pedigree is there, so he'll likely be one of the top names in the portal, and maybe he'll resurge his career like Jaden Daniels did. At this point, the story of Keyshawn Silver is a little bit sad. Coming out of Rocky Mount High School in North Carolina, Keyshawn was actually a 5-star recruit back in the day. He was listed as the number 6 defensive lineman in the class of 2021 and would originally go over to North Carolina. After things would not work out for him over in Chapel Hill, he would transfer to Kentucky for the last 2 years, where he registered 17 tackles in 2023 and then 26 tackles in his first career sack in 2024. In total, Silver has 46 tackles to his name and just 1 sack, and he will enter the portal hoping to find a new home. Again, because he was a 5-star and because he has so much athletic potential, he may get a chance at another high-profile school, but honestly, I bet he'll go to the lower Power 4 or high Group of 5 to try to get his way back onto the NFL radar. Okay, so in the back half of the video, I tried to put some more unique players. Camden Coleman is a name to watch. After coming out of Glenn High School in North Carolina, Camden Coleman would ultimately have to go over to Richmond to play football. The Spiders aren't exactly known as an NFL factory, but so far in his 2 years starting, Camden Coleman has done a good job. In total, he's passed for nearly 3,200 yards with 26 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, and is one of the top FCS quarterbacks listed in the portal. I'm not saying he will, but he could have a similar story or trajectory to guys like Cam Ward and even Max Brosmer. There's always an FCS quarterback who jumps up and makes an impact, and I bet he'll go to a lower level Power 4 school somewhere like Virginia or go start at the Group of 5 level, but Camden Coleman is an FCS quarterback to watch. Another huge name that entered the 2025 transfer portal was cornerback Julian Humphrey. Coming out of Clear Lake High School in Houston, Humphrey was a consensus top 100 player and a top 15 corner in the class of 2022. Humphrey would decide to go over to Georgia, but in his 3 years in Athens, he never really got on the field too much. He ended up finishing with 11 tackles and 1 pass deflection in 2023, and then this past year had 10 tackles with 4 pass deflections. For that few reps, 4 pass deflections is actually pretty impressive, and combining that with his high school ranking leads many to believe that he'll play high-profile football still. Apparently, everybody thinks that Julian Humphrey will end up at Texas, and right now he's listed as a 4-star transfer and one of the top names in the portal. Speaking of highly recruited players who are currently in the portal, we have to talk about Gabriel Brownlow Dindy. Coming out of Lakeland High School in Florida, he was listed as a 5-star recruit and the number 11 player in the class of 2022. Gabriel was part of that epic 2022 Texas A&M class, but his stat line was not epic by any means. He didn't play in 2022 and then had 3 tackles in 2023 and 1 tackle in 2024. I'm not sure if there's some sort of injury there, but Gabriel fell behind on the depth chart and will now look for another school. Again, I think solely because he was a 5-star, he'll find his way onto another SEC or big-time program, but time is running out for him, and he looks like one of the bigger busts from the class of 2022 right now. You know, you have to give North Dakota State a lot of credit for producing big-time players. Cole Wisniewski is one of the new guys coming out of North Dakota State, as after going to Sparta High School in Wisconsin, he was listed as a 2-star recruit and the 220th overall player in his class. Cole would end up playing 3 years for North Dakota State, and he started in both 2022 and 2023. His best season came in 2023, in which he had 88 tackles with 5 pass deflections and a forced fumble, plus a pick 6. Sadly, Cole would miss the entirety of the 2024 season due to a foot injury, but right now he's considered a guy who will definitely go Power 4. A lot of people think he'll end up going to Iowa, and he looks like he'll probably stay in that Big Ten West territory and maybe play his way into the NFL at some point. Cole is a great story. We're going to go ahead and talk about another FCS player, and that is Malachi Hosley. After going to Northside High School in Columbus, Georgia, Malachi didn't really have a whole lot of options coming out of high school. He ended up enrolling at Penn, and the zero-star recruit was never expected to make it in the mainstream in college football. In 2023, he ended up running for 700 yards and 7 touchdowns though, and this past season, he became one of the best backs in the FCS, running the ball 191 times for 1,200 yards and 9 total touchdowns. In total, in 2 years, Malachi had nearly 2,000 yards and 16 scores, and would decide to enter the 2025 transfer portal, where he'll definitely get an opportunity to play Power 4 football. In a world in which many teams want 1 or 2 good backs, Malachi definitely has a place in the Power 4, and will be another feel-good story from the FCS. It was a tough season for Mississippi State fans and Mississippi State players, but Creed Whittemore had a good season. After coming out of Gainesville, Florida, Whittemore was listed as a top 200 recruit and the number 8 athlete in the class of 2023. Creed decided for some reason to go to Mississippi State, and in his 2 years in Stark Vegas so far, Whittemore had 11 catches in 2023 and 4 catches in 2024. So far, his production has not matched his high school ranking, but he's also been sort of a gadget player. He's also ran the ball, passed the ball, and done some stuff on special teams, so he's sort of one of those guys that can do a little bit of everything. Whittemore is currently seen as one of the top transfers in the portal, and I have no idea where he's going to go, but if he really is all that athletic and can do that much, he'll definitely find his way onto a Power 4 roster. Honestly, I might have to do a video just about FCS players in the portal, because I just always love seeing these stories. Derek Simmons is another example, as coming out of the state of Florida, he was listed as a 0-star recruit, and truly has a crazy story. He ended up starting out his career at Tusculum College in 2020, then went to Abilene Christian, and now is currently at Western Carolina this past season. Derek Simmons has all the intangibles to be a starting offensive lineman, and my bet is that he ends up at the low Power 4 level. Alright, stay with me guys, we have a couple more players to talk about, and the first one is Sione Hala. After coming out of St. John Bosco High School in California, he was listed as a 4-star recruit in the class of 2022. Hala ended up going to Boston College, and the 4-star player had a minimal impact at BC. In 2023, he finished with a total of 26 tackles, with 1 sack and 1 forced fumble, and then in 2024, he had 11 tackles. Currently, he has entered the transfer portal and is listed as a top 50 transfer, and based on his recruitment coming out of high school, he still should be a solid addition, and I would bet will end up at the high group of 5 level. Up next, we have another FCS offensive lineman, and that is Will Reed. After going to Eastside Catholic High School in Washington, Will Reed was listed as a 3-star recruit in the class of 2021. How would Reed end up doing? Well, he started the next couple of years while he was at Princeton, and has now done so well that he entered the transfer portal and is currently listed as a top 50 transfer. Will Reed is nearly 6'7" and over 300 pounds, so I think honestly he will have a place at the Power 5 level, and I'm definitely curious to see where he is going to end up. Okay, I promise this will be the last offensive lineman from the FCS level, but I do find it just so fascinating. Tyreek Poindexter was a 0-star recruit when he went to William Fleming High School in Virginia, and again, he didn't have many options, so he'd have to end up going to Virginia Military Institute, known as VMI. The 6'6", 325-pound offensive lineman had a breakout season in 2023, and followed it up with a really solid season in 2024, so just like those other guys, he'll probably end up in the Power 4 as an offensive lineman starter, and who knows, maybe he could be an NFL draft prospect here at some point. Okay, so the final player I want to talk about is Tyson Ford. I've been hearing about this guy for quite some time, as I'm a Mizzou fan, he was coming up in the Mizzou recruiting world as he came out of St. Louis. His older brother also went to Mizzou at one point. After going to the John Burroughs School, Ford was listed as a top 200 recruit and a top 25 defensive lineman in the class of 2022, but Ford was never really able to get going while he was at Notre Dame. He's one of those guys who entered the transfer portal pretty quickly, as he didn't even make it through the season, and in total, he registered 1 tackle. I'm not quite sure where he's going to go or at what level, but again, he was a top 200 recruit, so maybe he'll get another opportunity. He definitely was extremely disappointing at Notre Dame, and if you're a Notre Dame fan, let me know down below why. So yeah, today we talked about 20 more intriguing players who entered the portal, as some of them are really highly regarded, some of them are big-time quarterbacks, and others are players who I think just deserve the spotlight as they come from FCS schools, and if not, you probably wouldn't know anything about them. But who did I miss? Be sure to let me know down below what player I should cover next. Let me know what topic I should cover next. And don't forget to also leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon. But until next time, peace.